Coming to you from Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, this is the Quinn Spinn. Hey now, and welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of the Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, Quinn. At least that's how I'm known here on the program. And I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of ECM Collective. I almost said Underground Music Collective again, but we're not that anymore. We have evolved. And we're also, for the first time in months, back on the interview set here at Helping Our Music Evolve in East Nashville, the heart of Music City, Tennessee. You heard Revel 9's All I've Become at the top of the show. It's been our opening theme song since the great year of 2014, and it will be until the very end of days. And I'm joined back here on the interview set for the second time. His second appearance, Ender Bowen, joining us, of course, musician, author, aspiring compassionist,
yes.
All around good soul. Thank you, sir, for joining us again.
Oh, thank you for having me again. I'm really happy to be here. It's a long time in coming. It took too long for me to get my stuff together to get here and do this.
But it's together, and
yeah,
and we're gonna
together-ish,
more together than perhaps it was before.
Yes, yeah, no, that's definitely for sure. Yeah.
So we're gonna, of course, get into all of that. But before we do, just to reintroduce you to the Quinn Spinn audience, I ask every guest of the show 3 standard questions. You've answered these before. Let's see if your answers have changed.
No, they may have.
Who are you? What are your passions, and why on earth would you want to come back on the Quinn Spinn?
I am Ender Bowen. I'm an aspiring compassionist, which basically means that I'm a big believer in the concept of compassion, taking each person as an individual, no matter where they come from, what their beliefs, what their situations, their experiences. Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone is unique in that way, and everyone, I think, is complex and interesting in that way. And I think compassion is one of the best ways to learn how to know someone, and through knowing someone, love someone, and through loving someone, want for someone. And that's how you have genuine compromise. And why I want to be here, why I'm here again, is it's all part to do with like how that feeds into like the ECM Collective. And the idea of building community, which I'm very, very big on. I want to build a community of little lights around this idea of compassion. And the Quinn Spinn has always been very, very big on the idea of building community and respecting people from all different walks of life. So I can't think of a better place to be, really, than here talking about those kinds of things. So
why, thank you.
Thank
you. That is a very unique answer, for sure. Much appreciated.
Right off the cuff, too. So
yeah, glad to have you back.
Yeah,
I'm glad to be here. And definitely, as far as your branding, and the way, you're presenting who Ender Bowen is to the world, you've definitely had a chance to evolve since our last conversation.
My gosh, yeah. So our last conversation was, I think, at this point, 14 months ago, roughly.
Yeah, something like that.
And I mean, I was just coming in, weedle beetle baby, and now, and I have to say, a lot of it is through the conversations you and I have had through the coaching and mentor program, and all that. I've really started to figure out who Ender Bowen is, how to present myself. And, it's kind of like you and I talked about. It's like taking who I am as a person, but like turning it up to 11 a little bit to add that little bit of, the spark, the entertainment value, and whatnot. And I mean, there's a long way to go. There's a lot of experimenting to do with it, but I feel like I'm in a place now where I kind of know who I am and what I'm presenting. And now it's just a matter of the verbiage playing out. It's a matter of doing more of the promos that you and I have watched me do, and seeing how people respond to those, and then tweaking as we go.
Right.
But this is the first time I feel like in my entire life, my 40 something years of life, that I'm feeling like I'm figuring out, I'm not all the way in the groove, but the needle's not jumping off the off the vinyl into the ether. So yeah.
And I think a big part of that is stepping further and further into it and realizing that that's a process, right? And so like you have definitely done that. Full disclosure, Ender Bowen is one of my coaching clients, you know, in the time between last appearance and this appearance, right? We've been working together pretty closely.
We should do it before. People do it before. I don't mean to interrupt, but do it before and after.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a before and after. We have the first episode up and now here's the after. And like just leaps and bounds in terms of your ability to just really step in and own all parts of that. And a lot of that, of course, is breaking past fear.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And, you know, one thing we've definitely talked about is, you know, the fear doesn't go away. Like, you just need to change your relationship with it. It's always going to crop up, you know, it's always going to be there, you know, lurking beneath the surface. But the important thing is really how you manage that fear, how you manage your relationship with it, how you deal with it and act in its face. And you've done a tremendous job of doing that.
That's what a lot of this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that shirt says just some inexplicably dumb bald guy.
Yeah.
And it's one of your official F the Haters shirts.
Yes.
The F the Haters line.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that and how like embracing that concept has helped you grow.
So, I can tell you this goes back a long way. Like at this point, so obviously I'm not a well-known artist or anything like that. That's neither here nor there. But, you know, I have been trying to do this for well over 20 years. And so through that 20 years, you're going to get people coming at you and criticizing you and everything else. And you know, being afraid of that criticism can be a roadblock. And it was for me for a long time. But I think it was like 3 years ago when I was trying to get my The Art of Tactful Procrastination together and get it out. You know, starts and stumbles with some of the things I was doing to try and promote myself and the things I was trying to do. But one of the things that I think I landed on pretty well was the idea of taking, you know, when you're putting your ads out there, when you're putting your posts out there, you're gonna get haters that come up and comment on it and say just terrible things. And first of all, the first thing to recognize is that it's not you that's the problem. They have a problem.
It's something they're projecting within
themselves. It's something they're projecting, and rather than go ahead and throw the hate back in their face, because you know sometimes that's stuff they can't control. And going with compassion, I don't know what they're dealing with. Right. So I'm not going to take it personally. This is something that they're trying to get out. Yeah. But at the same time, those things can be very hurtful. And if you don't know how to manage that, it can keep you from wanting to do the things that you know you were born to do, right? Talking about fear. So I just basically said, well, I'm going to start taking those critiques that people throw on my Facebook or whatever it is, and I'm going to turn them into shirts and wear it around. Like, take the power out of it. Exactly. Own whatever it is they're saying to you, or in a way you're throwing it back in their face, but you're not doing it in a way that it's like, you know, you're trying to be hurtful back. Right. You're almost in a way acknowledging that they said that. Yeah. And saying, okay, great.
And you're changing your relationship with it.
You're changing your relationship with it, and you're spinning it a bit. You're turning it around, and it's kind of like judo, you know, taking your enemies, whatever your enemy is throwing at you, and using it against them. And once I started doing that, I really think that was the initial sort of breaking down a barrier to moving more towards conquering all these other fears that I've had in terms of playing live and everything else that I'm doing. And at a certain point, being comfortable with who I am and saying, you know, not everyone's going to get this. Yeah. And I'm certainly, there's going to be people that are very, I won't get into the details, but like extremely political minded on either side that don't get it. You know, they would rather like not compromise. They would rather do whatever is going to confirm their bias. Yes. And which I understand too. But you know, that's one of those things where I'm like, well, I am putting myself out there in a different way, and I am going to have people that look at me and think, oh, he's an idiot or whatever. So I started taking those quotes, and even to a point kind of commenting. I think the most I commented for one person was, well, that's a t-shirt. So it became a t-shirt. If they get me with good ones, sometimes I like, it's gotten to the point where I kind of want them to happen now, because I can turn around and turn that into a shirt. So it really does change the relationship in that way, where you're not fearing it anymore. Yeah. You're almost saying, bring it on. Yeah. Because, you know, a lot of this too comes from my relationship. My wife and I are very big on when we can take the piss out of each other. Yeah. Or with people we know, it's like, well, now we're friends, right? Because that's what we expect from people, is a little bit of that whatever.
Yeah. And on their end, all they can really do it to that at that point is tip their cap to it.
Yeah.
You know, like all they can do is be like, well, what else can I say?
It's always about taking the high road as much as you possibly can. It's not easy either. Like, I mean, when I talk about the compassion stuff and leading with compassion and trying to meet people with compassion, that is not any. I mean, it's as much for me as it is for the people, you know, that I'm writing it for.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in those things. It's as much, I don't know, a sense of therapy and a sense of reminder for me too, and how to conduct myself, because I'm not perfect at that. I screw that up all the time.
And speaking of not being perfect, I just want to check something with the feed real quick, and I'm not going to edit this out. Because I just want to make sure that okay, good. I remembered to go live because sometimes in the Vimeo screen, it has the little, you see that red button on the top there?
I do.
Well, sometimes it says end event, which means we're actually capturing, and sometimes it says go live, which means we haven't actually started capturing.
It'd be nice
yet.
if they changed the color of the button.
Yeah.
Is it the same color for both?
Yes.
Well, Vimeo,
same typeface, everything.
Vimeo, you've got work to do.
And so for the past 5 minutes, I've been listening, but I've also been like, I need to find a natural break point to like go check on that. And since we do things real and live and raw and authentic here, I'm not editing that out. So, but that's the thing. And like, you got to own it. You got to
own it.
Like sometimes we mess up. And like, I think, you know, just in a general sense, like people are sick of manufactured perfection. I
Absolutely.
know I am. I am so tired of seeing every singer-songwriter from everywhere USA taking a perfectly posed photo in front of the Wings downtown. Like, do something. Like, say something. Like, be something other than what the cookie cutter the industry is trying to fit you into.
Yeah.
It's so much more interesting, and you're going to make way more authentic connections by doing that.
They're going to be, it may not be as like, yeah, you're right. It may not be as many as like, sorry, I keep on hitting this, as many, talk about being real and screwing up. It won't be as many, you know, necessarily people, right? You won't be as globally known or something like that, I suppose. But when you talk about being authentic and being like real, those connections are going to be so much stronger. And I think you're going to make, when you've really figured it out and you've dialed in who that audience is, and this is something we're still working on together, you're going to find that those people stick around for life.
Yes.
Right? It like they will be with you for the journey.
Yeah.
Whereas people who aren't so much, they might come in for a song or two and say, hey, I like that song. I like that video. And maybe they buy the album.
Yeah.
But then they kind of just fizzle out and go somewhere else.
Or they become the play the old stuff people.
Play the old
which
stuff.
are my least favorite kind of music fan.
Yeah,
You should always be looking to grow as a listener, in my humble, not so humble opinion, I guess. And like, that's the thing is, with our rebrand, going from Underground Music Collective to ECM Collective that we're in the middle of right now, like I'm experiencing that right now where like the people who get it, and they're the ones who will get it because they understand the big picture of what this platform serves to do, which is highlight the independent creative. Now, music has been our specific lane for the most of the past decade, you know?
Yeah.
But when I first started the show, it was kind of wild going back and listening to episode 1. And I mean, as awkward as that episode was, you know, because it was just me in front of a microphone for the first time in 3 years and I had no idea what I was doing. I was floored by the fact that I said on that episode exactly what I'm saying now 10 years later, and like brainstormed all summer, which was, you know, this is a platform to highlight anybody who's creating something that wants to have a bigger impact. And then music just became the lane pretty quickly into our OG run. But like, it started as like, if you've got a business, if you've got a project, we want to know about it. We want to feature you. Like, this is what this is for. And then musicians just ate it up right away. And also because I focused on finding musicians to feature, that just became, the road we went down.
Well, so, and in that sense too, you haven't changed your message or your mission really at all.
Right.
What we've really done is you've just found a way to, like, I don't want to call it pivoting, because you're not really pivoting. Pivoting is usually what you do when something's not working. I think what you were doing was working so well that now you can offer and sort of tweak what you're doing for other entrepreneurs, other creatives.
Right.
So you're sticking to the same message. And I think that's why the people who are sticking with you are sticking with you. You haven't changed the mission at all.
Right.
What you've done is you've changed maybe some of the window dressing.
Exactly.
And that's going to happen. I mean, a little bit of renovation here, a little bit of, I want to put tile on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
I think it's a pivot in a sense because we were so, hard in the lane of just music for a while, or primarily music for a while. And if you came into this in like 2021 and knew us as Underground Music Collective, you're looking at this saying, WTF?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Mhm.
But if you've been here since 2013, 14, you know this is what it always was.
Yeah.
And or if you've just been following and you're just open to like, hey, you know, this could impact a lot more people, then you're along for the ride. I mean, there have definitely been people who are like, you need to reconsider this direction. You need to do this. You need my input on
with
this.
this with this new change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm like, well, no, I don't, because this was always the direction.
Yeah.
This was always what this was meant to do, was have as large an impact on the independent creative as possible. And that's the thing, is like, you can't take it personally, because like those people often don't know the whole story.
Right.
They've only come, you know, it's just like, you know, if somebody likes you for a certain song or for a certain era, certain style, and then you do something different, they're like, what's this? You know, it's the same thing. People know us for one thing without really understanding the scope of the history, or, you know, the scope of the purpose that this all serves. You know, it's like Mike Shinoda said in When They Come For Me off of 1,000 Suns by Linkin Park. Once you have a theory of how the thing works, everybody wants the next thing to be just like the first. A lot of people get really comfortable in thinking they know who you are, and thinking they know, like, okay, this is comfortable for me. This is the lane they're going to stay in. I like this specific thing, without thinking of the creative mind behind it. And that's the thing, is like Linkin Park, perfect example of how they evolved throughout their career. Maybe they'll do something in the future. It's still undecided, I guess, without Chester, but like nothing sounded the same.
Yeah.
Hybrid Theory and Meteora were similar, but Meteora was an evolution off of that model. But then they decided, well, how much more can we, you know, go to that well? Let's try something different, you know. And then you had Minutes to Midnight, 1,000 Suns, which was a very innovative album for that time.
Yeah.
So innovative that as a Linkin Park fan, I gotta admit, I didn't like it at first. Now I think it's one of their best.
Yeah.
You know, being able to go back all those years later, you know, right after Chester passed, I went back and did a listen through of all their albums.
Yeah.
And 1,000 Suns and Living Things were the two where I was like, wow, I did not give these a proper chance.
Yeah.
But they were so different from the stuff that came prior. And like, yeah, you're a Linkin Park fan who came to them for a certain thing is going to listen to those albums and be like, what is this? You know, but the Linkin Park fan, or the music fan, or the fan of art that is into that kind of growth and evolution is like, yeah, okay, what are they going to do next? You know,
what's interesting too about that is you're talking about how people like bands for the certain thing, and then they change it up or whatever, and they kind of fall off. This is one of the things I loved about U2. Like, I discovered U2 in the 90s, so this is when they were really experimenting hard with all the stuff that I like.
Yeah.
And you know, then when they went into the 2000s and kind of changed things up, like, you know, Beautiful Day, and that album was great, but it was very stripped back, and I wanted something more, you know, keeping with the progression of the experimental. And I just, over the last 20 years, I feel like they really locked into being a legacy band and whatnot. And then, you know, politically, there's that aspect too. I won't get into their activism specifically, but one of the things I always loved about them was their activism. And in a lot of ways, I feel like in the last 10 years or so, I haven't connected specifically with the things they're active about. But I think that's less about them. They're still staying true to them. It's more like, I've changed and grown a bit.
Oh, that's a good point.
So, right. So it's not so much that, like, I don't want them to go back and make another Pop or another Octung Baby.
Right.
Because that wouldn't be progression either.
Right.
That'd be regression. What I would love is for them to kind of go, you know what? We've done everything we can possibly do. Let's just mix it up and have some fun and do something crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I would love something like that.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of, I wish you'd go back and do something like that kind of thing that I mean. It's not so much about the sound. It's not so much about remaking a certain album. It's more about feeling like they're not experimenting enough. Whereas they may be sitting there saying they're experimenting a lot. Yeah. So it could be me that's the problem in the situation. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not so much that they've changed. It's that I've grown. Like, I was 15 when I discovered them. So, and I'm 40 now. So
I have a similar relationship with Bon Jovi.
Okay,
because I came in as a second wave Bon Jovi fan when Crush came out in 2000. It's My Life, that album.
Yes, that's a great album. That was a really good, weird harkening back to what they used to do, but in a more modern.
Yeah, it was a more mature album. The songwriting was super strong on that album. The storytelling, songs like Mystery Train, like Two Story Town, like the deeper cuts off that album. Like everyone knows that album for It's My Life, but there's a lot of really just strong efforts, as far as songwriting. The Next 100 Years is a masterpiece. Richie's solo goes like 2 minutes at the end. It's tremendous. And, so I came in then, and then like they were still mixing it up, because then a few years later in 2005, they did the Who Says You Can't Go Home remix with Sugarland with Jennifer Nettles.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Which led to the Lost Highway album, which I think over time, like if Crush is number one for me, Lost Highway is 1A. And again, the songwriting, and it was like a very much country influenced album, which gave me an appreciation for Americana, and then you had the Circle album, which I liked. What About Now, which I didn't like at all, really. And then This House Is Not For Sale, which was the first one after Richie left the band, was like, I've been kind of up and down with them over the past decade.
Yeah.
But like, if they're coming through and I have a chance to go see them, I will. Absolutely, because they're still playing a lot of these songs that I love and that I essentially grew up with, and even stuff that was out in the case of Slippery When Wet before I was born, the year before I was born in 86. I know Wanted Dead or Alive. It's one of my favorite songs. Living on a Prayer. Like there's still that legacy of them in my life.
Yeah, that hasn't changed.
Yeah. But like, we do evolve. Like we kind of start to divert in different directions a little bit, like from the bands that we love. And it's not that we love them any less. It's just like our tastes have evolved maybe in a different direction from what they're doing. And maybe they're not putting things out as frequently because, I think John's like 60 something now. Like, he's got other business ventures. Like, they're getting on in years, and like, really it's, the holistic strength of the catalog that is what keeps bringing people out more than anything.
Yeah.
But like, I totally relate to that too, because it's like, it has evolved, it has changed, but I will absolutely still go back to all those albums, all those songs anytime, and there's still that connection, even if it's not as strong now with the newer stuff than it was with the old. Like you still find things that you can appreciate.
Yeah. And New Jersey was the one for me.
New Jersey was
I had
Medicine,
that was my first. Yeah, Bad Medicine's a great song.
It is a great song.
Lay Your Hands on Me. I think that's the opening track.
Yeah, Lay Your Hands on Me is a tremendous opener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think people it's funny because most people, when you talk about Bon Jovi and you're talking classic Bon Jovi, they're talking about Slippery When Wet. They completely seem to gloss over New Jersey. And I'm like, there's some really good stuff on New Jersey. Like, how are we not talking about that more?
And not to mention Keep the Faith.
Yes.
Both the album and that song, in my opinion.
I forgot that was, I need to go back and listen to that whole album again. That was a good one.
Keep the Faith, the song, I think is their finest musical moment. Like, it's a tremendous anthemic song.
Yep.
And live, it is unreal.
I would imagine. Yeah,
it is unreal to hear that and just, experience that song live. Like it is their finest hour musically, in my opinion. And not to discredit anything that's come after that, but like, as far as like, there's no way you listen to that song and you're like, this song sucks. There is no way. Even if you don't like Bon Jovi, you listen to Keep the Faith, you're going to like that song.
Yep.
Or you don't have a pulse, in my not so humble opinion. This is me just spewing my opinions on this episode.
Bring that out of you.
Yeah. Let me tell you what grinds my gears.
Yeah.
But I do want to shift gears here.
Sure.
See what I did there? Nice segue.
That was well played. Nice transition.
And speaking of live music, you, in the process of all of this leveling up that you're doing, played your first ever Ender Bowen live gig.
Yes.
And
yes,
so that experience, and of course it was our 10th birthday show here in Nashville a couple weeks ago, and tremendous night. And again, I can't stop thanking people for this night because it was so wonderful just to see 10 years of this community come together, from the Mad Sugars, who were the first band we ever featured. I've known Adam since 7th grade, all the way up to the present day. And people that I've come to know more recently. And of course, like hitting all these different genres, like having all these different types of people from different walks of life in the room. Like, it's exactly what the Quinn Spinn is. So I just want to say that one more time. Thanks to everyone who made it possible and made that such a special week for us. And you, sir, made it a very special week. And it was also a special week for you.
Yeah.
Being able to step out and again, change that relationship with fear.
Yeah. Absolutely. That was it's so weird. Like you and I talked for a long time about like, and I appreciate you always kind of like checking in too, like how you feeling, how's it coming? You know what I mean? Like you need that sort of support of people coming up and making sure you're doing all right with this process, because fear can be a very, I talked about it as being a vampire. It comes at you. It tries to suck your blood, your soul, your everything that you are, and just make you a shell of yourself. And I'd let my typical experiences of as you get older, work, money, logistics, all that stuff that can be roadblocks to that stuff. But I gave fear permission to turn those explanations into excuses. Well, all these roadblocks are here. I can't get over these roadblocks, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, at a certain point, this was a New Year's resolution, right? I wanted to play at least one gig before the end of the year to get my feet wet and know that I can do it. And it was a real process, but I knew I was like, it was one of those things where God was nudging me, like, you need to get out there and you need to do this, that you were born to do this, go out and do it, and stop being so afraid of it. Like, and at a certain point I was just like, well, yeah, I got to do it. And it was so funny. The closer we got to the moment that I went up on that stage, the less and less afraid I was. So it wasn't like, I was actually a million times more less afraid. That's a terrible way of saying that. Going up on stage and doing that than I was doing my best man speech from my brother's wedding 3 weeks before. Like, I was terrified doing that. And I was like, woo, and just freaking out. But I got to tell you, I don't know if it was about the people in the room or the venue or whatever, like, or you being behind me and checking in on me. And I even I didn't get to talk to her at the gig, but I talked to Erin McClendon afterwards, and I told her that when she opened, and when she was up on stage and having trouble with her guitar, not staying in tune, like, to me, having not been up on stage, like fronting everything, that's terrifying, right?
Yeah.
But she handled it so professionally, like it was nothing, that nearly any nerves I had left just dissipated.
Right.
And I told her that afterwards. And, so we had a little conversation about that. But it's those little things like that if you kind of, in the same way that I always talk about, give people a chance to surprise you.
Yeah.
I needed to give this a chance to surprise me. And the funny thing is, once I got up on stage and got into the middle of that first song, all of a sudden it was fun. Like I knew it was going to be. Yeah. Like I always knew it was going to be.
Yeah.
And by the time it was over, I'm like, I was hoarse because I forgot to bring water up to drink, but whatever. I didn't want to stop. I'm like, I could do this for a while. And so by the time we got up and did like Hey Jude, and I was ready. Like, I'm like, I've done that. I'm old hat. This is old hat now.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those things where like, I'm not an extreme sports guy. I am not going to bungee jump. I'm not going to jump out of an airplane. That's too much.
Yeah.
But this was kind of like, when it's something you were born to do and it's something's been holding you back from doing it.
Yeah.
It was very much like free fall, but like in an exciting way, and knowing you can handle it.
Yeah.
And the parachute's going to open.
Yeah.
So.
And what was the absolute worst thing that was going to happen that night? The
worst thing was I embarrassed myself in front of all my friends. That again, thank you to everyone who showed up for that. Like I was blown away, the people who showed up for that and supported me. Like I'm never going to forget that. No matter what happens between any of us, like I am never going to forget that. That was a big milestone for me. So,
and that's the thing, is like you were in a very supportive environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even if you bombed, which you didn't, know, at all, but like, even if you did, like you're in a supportive environment, you're among friends, and that's the same thing. Like, and having that experience of, Erin's guitar kept going out of tune, she did handle it tremendously, as she always does. But like, it had to have set the tone for like, okay, we're all friends here, right? Like it's a supportive environment. Because even after her set, she's like, yeah, sorry about my guitar. I'm like, look, we're all friends here. It's fine. Like, thanks for being here. Like, that's the important thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, you're here, you killed it. Like, you know, equipment's going to do what equipment's going to do, you know?
Yep.
And that's the thing.
as personified by the experience we had before we started.
Oh, yeah. Me trying to figure out how this room works again was an adventure. And like, I'm pretty sure, and I hope this isn't a controversial statement, but I'm pretty sure I have undiagnosed ADHD because Ender comes in, he's like, would this help? Would this help? I'm like, I need to concentrate because like if there is anything distracting me from trying to solve the problem, I like completely just like deer in headlights, don't know what's going on anymore. I don't know if that's ADHD. Sorry if that offended anyone. I don't know, but just got to throw that out there. But like, I just need to be hyper focused because if I'm not, I'm going to be all over the place. And like, you know, we'd still be trying to set up.
And I'm a natural helper, troubleshooter kind of guy. So I'm all right.
Me too. But then like if I'm like in the middle of like trying to problem solve, it's like that needs all of my attention.
Yeah, no, I hear that.
It's not going to get solved. And that's the thing. It's like, yeah, like it happens, you know, and you just have to deal with it as it does, and you just have to handle it. And here we are up on stage doing the thing, and you know, it's all in the past now.
Yeah.
You know, it had really no consequence on any of this.
Nope.
You know, and the thing too is like, you know, I remember, and this is going to be something that when we build the Real Mom's Basement Studios one day, it's going to be emblazoned in big block letters with backlit in green. My mom had a sign in her kitchen that she would point to and just stare at me and be like, get the message once in a while. And it said, may you always have the courage to take a chance. And
love that.
She wanted us to go for this thing, you know, and as of recording, she's gone 8 years today. And so it's on my mind, you know, so anyway, but like she wanted us to go for this thing with the show. She was like our biggest supporter, you know, and she'd always be there to give us whatever we needed, whether it was support or tough love, you know. But that's the thing. It's like, well, you're not going to stop. You're not going to stop doing it because you got to do what lights you up. You have to go toward the life that you want. Yeah. And, you know, if you didn't put this band together and didn't play the show, you would have robbed yourself of that experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and like the worst that's going to happen is you go up there, bomb, you laugh it off and whatever. But like to have the experience that you had in not only putting this show together, not only preparing for this, overcoming this fear, but then going up there and doing very well to where multiple people were saying to me and you, like, this doesn't seem like it's your first gig. Like everything was really tight, you know, like the band, you found some really great players, like everything was really tight. And like the way you were able to weave your message into your set, I think was really powerful and was what stood out to a lot of the people I talked to and stood out to me, you know, this whole, you know, you have to kick fear in the ass is what you said, you know, like people heard that and were like, whoa. Yeah, and like how you weave that into Vampire, like mid-song, like pro stuff, you know, and, you know, you should definitely be proud of what you've done, you know, and I think there's also a lot for you to take forward from this too.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think there is. I mean, there's a lot I learned, and it was one of those things too where I'm like, I'm going to experiment with doing these things, saying these things, and it was really important for me. I don't know how to put it. It's almost like, you know, when you're making a pilot for a television show, like my wife and I are writers too. So I was kind of thinking of it strangely in that way, like setting the expectations for the further episodes. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be Ender Bowen show is going to be a little bit of this and that and try and get some of that in there without, you know, coming off like I'm on a soapbox or preaching. I didn't want to do that. I want to make anytime I'm talking about things like kicking fear in the ass or you know, compassion or whatever it is. I don't want to come off preachy. I want to make that just as entertaining as anything else. Right. And at the end of the day, if what you get is you enjoy the music and the show in general, that's fine. But you know, I'm going to keep pushing with the thing that it's really all about, that what my writing is about, my songs are about, my platform is all about, which is, it really comes down to compassion and you know, growth and conquering those demons and those challenges and being everything, you know, being in my 40s and, you know, seeing a lot of friends and people I network with and connections and family members even that struggle with, you know, I should be doing something else or or whatever it is, getting trapped in the monotony of life. And we live in a 24/7 society now where you good luck sleeping. It's one of those things where I don't know the answers as to how to accomplish those things, necessarily. Yeah. But I'm a big believer in if you've got something that you were born to do, you're here to do, man, do whatever you can responsibly too. Don't just like run away from your family and stuff or your responsibilities. I don't mean that. Right. But like, that's why I don't have the answers to all of it, but don't give up on that, because that's why you're here. And I think that's, I want to build that community around that, but I also want to build that community around, being a voice that isn't, I'm not out there to be the look what so-and-so said kind of person or anything like that. I want to be the kind of person who inspires people to be their best person and to be the best person to other people. So that's kind of what I'm looking for.
And just a couple takeaways for me off of that. Number one, like, that thing, that goal, that dream, whatever you want to call it, that vision's always going to be getting at you, whether you go in that direction or not. If you don't go in that direction, it's going to manifest itself in other ways negatively. It's going to affect you negatively. There's going to be some sense of unfulfillment you feel. And it's going to come out in the wash, in terms of your behavior toward yourself, behavior toward other people, the vices you pick up to distract you, to numb yourself from.
You got to self-medicate yourself. Yeah.
From your greater purpose, right? If you're moving with purpose, that purpose is the antidote to a lot of vice. That purpose is the antidote to a lot of the chaos that we encounter or that we can let into our lives. In lieu of moving toward what we know intrinsically is here for us. That's one takeaway. And the other takeaway is it's never too late to start. You've acknowledged on this episode, you're in your 40s.
Yeah.
I'm 36. My sister back home, 43, mother of three, great teaching career. She's been tutoring since 2011, is opening a tutoring center after thinking about it for 12 years up in Jersey.
Nice.
And like fear was getting in the way. And she had a conversation with her daughter, my niece, Amber, who I've talked about, who's been on the show before. And Amber gave her the push to give a call about a space. And now this is opening September 30th.
That's
awesome.
It's
come together all in the past couple of months. The town's excited. They're doing a ribbon cutting, everything, because she took the chance.
Yeah.
She took the chance. She didn't let anyone tell her no. She didn't let fear tell her no. She realized it's never too late to start. Also, conversely, we only have a limited time and we never know when that's going to run out.
That's right.
We've got to go and do the thing. And no matter how far it gets, whether we get to the tippy top of whatever industry, to where, if you're a musician, if you're Taylor Swift selling out stadiums, or you just have those small intimate shows and you're making an impact on those people, you're making an impact somehow. And you're living this dream, you're creating this vision somehow.
Yeah.
And you have to go in the direction of that, because otherwise life will steer you in a direction. And oftentimes, more often than not, vastly more often than not, it's going to be the direction you don't want to go in if you don't take control and you don't tell life where it's going.
Right. I always like to say the world is malleable, so bend it to your will. And that doesn't mean you run over people. It doesn't mean you do step on other people to get what you want. That doesn't mean that. It means that the world is not as solid in terms of where it's trying to put you in your place. You actually have a lot more wiggle room than you think you do. You just have to believe in that. And I've always known that, but it's one of those things like, when you say that I didn't just, and I've had several friends tell me this after that gig too, like, oh, you didn't just open the door, you kicked it down that night, right? To me, that was validation of everything I had thought about myself. Like, I've got a long way to go in getting really good at it and really learning how to be on stage, but I've already got, according to everyone else, like, I've got stage presence, it's there. I've got the capability to be up there and do this. That's validation for me that, I'm not going to doubt myself about that anymore. The next step is getting better at it, honing it.
Right.
So at least I know I've got the building blocks that I always knew I had, but was terrified to to get up there and find out I didn't.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So, you know, that was an incredible night, even just for that reason, to get up there and have that validation of, okay, I've got something, don't know what it is, but I've got at least what I thought I had.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing when you get up there and find yourself doing the thing that you knew you could do, even if it isn't polished, you know, and it wouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
But to do that and go, well, okay then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. That just happened.
Just happened.
Where can it go from here?
Where can it go from here?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what you and I have been talking about a lot in the week since. So,
and that's my question is, where does it go from here?
Well, where it goes from here is there's definitely going to be more live shows. I've been joking about the whole more in 24. I don't know what the date set up and all that is going to be yet, but I'm already talking with people about how we're going to figure out sequences, and because that was the next logistical hurdle I gotta beat, and then going from there and getting rehearsals down. And what I think honestly what I'd like to do is get songs prepared, get arrangements prepared, rehearse them, get them down well enough so that then I can go, okay, now let's go figure out the gigs.
Yeah.
Right. We already know the songs.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's go get the gigs. And then we're not trying to race the clock.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of goes back to what you and I talk about, where it's like as much content as you can get ready and put in the bucket and get prepared, the better.
Yeah.
Because then you can focus on the actual execution and not making more at the same time. It's like I'm have a plan to well, you already know I'm taking nearly all of my Godjots articles and turning them into podcasts.
Yeah.
I've recorded half of those. I'm going to record the other half by the end of the year and get those scheduled to just line them up to just release throughout next year. That gets that out of the way so I can do some other things. So, and especially when you're managing, I'm not an expert in time management by any sense of the word, but I know that you have to have time management, especially when you have kids, a job, and everything else that comes with adult responsibilities. So that's kind of what I'm doing is I'm trying to knock out a bunch of things at once, set it over here, and do something else over there. Same thing. Just keep knocking those big blocks down and get them out. So
right on.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is we can only take on so much at any one time, but as long as you're making that progress, like you're getting somewhere, you know? And I think too, like there are so many things we all want to do, right? And the trick is not getting so overwhelmed by all of the things and picking a starting point and going in that direction, you know, and because of course you have balance that you need to maintain, you know, especially having children, especially, you know, having to pay the bills, like having to make this all make sense, you know, becomes trickier. You know, there are more pieces of the puzzle as we get older, as we acquire more responsibilities. You know?
And that's the other thing is the more successful you get with the thing you're doing, the more responsibilities come from that too. So, you know, you can't just stop doing things. It's almost like at a certain point it becomes a snowball running down the hill and growing and growing and growing, and you almost at a certain point have to run to catch up. I'm nowhere near that point yet, but I know I kind of feel like if that starts happening, okay, now we're on to something. Now I'm going after that big giant you know, snowball running down the hill. So that's like the next thing.
And then it becomes a question too of like, you know, once that starts rolling down the hill and you can't catch it by yourself, you know, like who else do you need on your team?
That's exactly right. You need to build that team to help you out with that. And I mean, I'm very lucky in a sense that because I've been doing music for 20 years, because I've been writing my articles now for, I think 8, I have a ton of content out there that people can gobble up. So that gives me some wiggle room, you know, while people are kind of, you know, jumping into this. Like, it's not like here's an album and that's the only thing I've got and now I gotta get more content going before people get bored. It's like I've got a ton out there. So people will have a lot to digest before I run out of room. I'm very, very lucky. Not everyone has that ability. I've got that sort of buffer zone. So I understand when I sit here and say something like, oh, you know, I'm getting out there and doing what I'm doing and really pushing it now. I know when I say don't give up on the things that you're doing and the things that you're passionate about, I understand that for a lot of people, they're like, I've got nothing. Like, I don't have anything produced that I can put in front of people yet. That's very daunting and terrifying. But I'm telling you, if you're passionate and authentic about the thing that you want to do, just start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You don't know what you're going to write. I knew I wanted to write God Jots, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know what I was going to write.
Mm-hmm.
Sat down and just started writing. And it wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. I've been able to go back through the years and repolish some of those articles. And that's what you can do. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Just get out there and be you, be your thing, do your thing. And I'm telling you, if you train yourself to
Mhm.
do things,
Yeah.
right, get started, you will be surprised at how quickly, not overnight, but how quickly it really starts to build and
Yeah.
build. I've always, like, there's a friend of mine, I think, who's also a blog writer.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was it. They wanted to write a book. Sorry. They wanted to write a book. And I said, well, write a piece of that book, like make it a blog or something. Right. And just one piece of that a week. And before you know, and be putting that out before you know it, you've got a whole book's worth. That's what I want to do with God Jots and Operation Joy, is keep writing these articles until I've got enough to put in a book.
Right.
So, it gets things kind of moving and it gets an audience building, but then you can actually put that collection, that anthology or whatever it is out. And now you can reach another audience with it. So,
and you have to create in order to grow and improve in your creation process.
Mm-hmm.
And as somebody who just went back and listened to the very early episodes of this entire journey with the Quinn Spinn, I can tell you there's a lot of stuff that surprised me and how well it held up, or, how good it was, for the very limited knowledge and experience we had. There's also stuff that will frankly never see the light of day, either because of production value or just because it didn't age well, but like you've got to make those mistakes. You've got to miss in order to get better at hitting the target. And you only do that with practice. You only do that by iterating and creating. And I loved your point, where you said just start.
Yep.
Because you've got to pick a point to just start. You can't just sit back and just like wait for that to come to you. Like if you're not the first person to put it out into the world, nobody's going to send you an invitation to do it.
No, I like that. No one's going to send you an invitation. Yeah, that's good.
Like stop. And this is something
you got to crash your own party.
Yeah. And this is something I have to tell myself after 10 years of this, and just in life in general. Stop waiting for an invitation. Stop waiting around for somebody to just hand you an opportunity or hire you to do something. Get out there. Get out there. I'm recommitting myself right now to like making sure I get out to at least one event a week. And if it's a live music event, I'm bringing my camera, because it's a conversation starter. Not only like, hey, if you need photos, hire me, but it's also a conversation starter about ECM and everything we're doing and how beneficial it can be. And the more conversations I have about that, the more I want to talk about it, because we're going to be doing some really amazing things here coming up. But that's the thing, is like, if I don't put that in front of people, all it remains is this idea and this half-baked launch that doesn't go anywhere. I have to tell people, I have to ask them to be a part of it, because otherwise, like you might get a couple people who fill out the application to join, but I am going out now and I'm asking people to join the community. I'm asking people to contribute. I'm asking people, already lining up these speakers and panelists for what we're going to be doing, because you have to. Nobody, and certainly nobody of value in that entrepreneurial space is going to just like see us and be like, I want to speak at your thing. You've got to ask them. You've got to sell it to them a little bit, as far as like the value of their time and why it's going to be of value to them. But you've got to put it out there, because no one else is going to start it for you.
And announcing things like that too. It's like when I announced the gig back in June or July, when I was telling people about it, it provides a sense of accountability too. It's like, well, I put this out here, I got to do it now. And that can be a little bit stressful and it can be a bit terrifying, but I'm telling you, there is no point where you're doing anything. I don't care how much of an expert you are at it, where there isn't going to be that little bit of fear kind of nibbling on your neck a little bit. It's always going to be there. And I'm just telling you, don't be afraid of it. Like, not to the point where you're, a little bit of that fear is okay, but don't be afraid of it to the point where you immobilize yourself. I did that for far too long. And in a way I'm mad at myself for having done that, because man, by now I should know what I'm doing, and I started doing it earlier. But on the flip side of that is, it's like what you and I talked about after that gig, is that's not my story.
Mm-hmm.
My story is different. It's unique. Everyone's is. Don't be afraid of your story, because if you're honest about it and authentic about it, you will get it out there, and the right people will eat that up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get over dramatic about it. I don't go, oh, I'm 43 and I should have done this before. Yeah, maybe I should have. But the story I'm telling is different. It's my story is about getting through those struggles, conquering those fears, and doing it. This is the other thing I love about it. We talk about me not being an expert in any of the things I write either. Like that's why I call myself an aspiring compassionist, because the compassion thing is very important to me, but I'm still learning and growing as I go. I'm not sitting here on top of a mountain telling everyone this is how you should do it. I'm just giving my observations as I go, and I'm hoping it helps. And we can build a community around that coalesces and talks about, well, did you try this? How did it work? What happened? We can always update those things. It's a great thing. It's a conversation, not a course.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at it like I'm doing this live in front of you. I'm basically saying, okay, I'm going to show you conquering your fears, and then going up and doing it. And then the icing on the cake is that it went okay. You know what I mean?
And then you can look at them and be like, okay, what fear are you conquering?
Yeah. What fear are you
go do something with this.
Yeah. Like you watched me do this. That's where one of those things, like when people have these platforms about how to do, and I'm not knocking them, okay?
Right.
There's some value in these things, but when people do this and they go, "Oh, I used to be this. Now I've got cars and garages and all these things because I did this and I'm an expert in it." It's like, first of all, they don't know your story, they don't know your experience, they don't know what you've been through. I don't either, so I'm not trying to say that I'm better than them at that. But what I am doing is the equivalent of, it's like watching me try to start a business and work to get that 3-car garage, and showing you what I'm doing on the way. And some of those things may be a little bit off, but at no point are you gonna question where my heart is and what I'm doing with it, right? And how I'm trying to help and trying to make things better.
Yeah.
And I'm a human being, so sometimes I'm gonna fall on my face, but this is all part of the process of learning and engaging with your audience, not just going, here's a new song, I bequeath unto you a new article. It's like, let's talk about it. Like, come talk about it. That's why I want to start the Discord server. Like, I've got that going. I would love for people to come and be a part of that. So I want to be something different. I don't want to be an expert or a guru on high. I want to be someone who's like, I'm in the trenches with you. I'm trying to figure it out. I think I have a good keys to how to do it, but I still have to learn how to do it. Like, I know how it should work, but I have to do it too.
Right.
So yeah.
You're testing your own hypothesis.
That's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah. And
very
that's
much
the thing,
so.
like with instead of at. You know, that's the same thing.
Walking with you while we do it. I'm not going to say these things and let you go do it.
Right.
And see how that goes. I'm going to do it with you.
Yeah.
So that's exactly it.
Yeah. So speaking of engaging in Discord and all that stuff, we are coming up on time, unfortunately. We could go all day. I mean, but we've got to clean up the room. We
thought we didn't know what we were going to talk about.
Right, exactly. I sat down like, you want to just wing it? Okay, sure. All right, cool. And we just
off we go.
And then it was wung. But
it was wung. Love it.
We'll definitely do this many more times. We got Ender Bowen here joining us for the second time on the Quinn Spinn.
Yes.
Where can people learn more about you online, and where can they engage?
Okay, so enderbowen.com is my website. I've got access to my music, everything that I do, including I was talking about Godjots and Operation Joy. You can get there from there. You could also go to godjots.com or operationjoy.com if you want to do that. But enderbowen.com is a good centralized place for that. If you want to stay in touch with what I'm doing in terms of my music, live gigs coming up in 2024, the best place to do that, and make sure you don't miss it, because you might on Facebook. It's the way the algorithm is. Make sure you subscribe to my mail list. You get you get updates, you get free music, free ebooks, other exclusive content, and early access to new releases of stuff, including Godjots books and everything else. Go to enderbowen.com/subscribe and get on there. It'll be a really good time. And then as for the Discord, I was talking about before, I want to create a community of little lights. Everyone's a little light. Let's ignite other people. And bring the best out of each other if we possibly can. And I feel like the best place to do that right now is on Discord. If you go to enderbowen.com/Discord, you can learn all about how to get on that community. And I try to be on there as often as I can. And I'm still trying to figure out what it is we're going to do on there apart from just talking. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping that engaging with other people was going to help me, figure out what that's going to be. So that's going to be part of the fun. Yeah,
it always does.
We'll build it together. We will build that community together. That's what I want to do.
Because that's what we're about. And that's what we're about here at the Quinn Spinn. 2 N's and Quinn, 2 N's and Spin. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, and more. Also on Instagram at Quinn Spinn Official. Also Facebook at the Quinn Spinn. That page has actually seen an uptick in engagement lately, so I'm not quite giving up on Facebook just yet. Mm-hmm. Also, follow ECM Collective, the former Underground Music Collective, on Instagram, Facebook, X, I guess it's called now, LinkedIn, YouTube, where you might be watching this episode at the moment. We have a lot of exciting things happening that we're going to be unveiling to you in the coming weeks. I'm excited about the people we're going to have in this community.
I'm really excited about the whole thing, too.
And you're one of them.
Oh, yes, yeah. I am. That's right.
Yeah. And you'll get to engage with Ender Bowen. You'll get to engage with a community of musicians, creatives, entrepreneurs,
people
empowered
who
change makers.
Actually care about seeing you succeed. And not just saying it, actually doing it.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be way different from a lot of what people expect from, I don't know if you ever heard about Indepreneur or any of that kind of stuff. Not knocking them, good stuff. But this is something where I really think you're going to see a community of people who want you to succeed and will be there through the whole thing. And if that comes from the top down, my experience with you has been incredible. And I will run to the mountaintops and shout that, because I think I was eventually getting here, but I really think that you kicking me in the ass and being not just a good coach and mentor and helping me get through some of these things, but also a good accountability partner in that way. Man, I cannot find yourself an accountability partner.
I'll be it.
He will be it, and he'll be amazing. Heck, I'll do it too. Contact me. I would love to. I will. Every week I'll just go, where are we on this? I'm big on that. I really want to help people to maximize their goals, maximize your time, and succeed at the things that you're passionate about, because the world needs to hear what you're passionate about. They really do. They need to hear your story.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
And that's the thing with ECM Collective, is we're building that community, to give each other that push and to give each other the knowledge, the resources, the inspiration.
Yes.
And all of the above, and to build this community full of people who have been there and done it, who are actively doing it. Some might be further along on the journey, but we're all in this community together. And it's built on the strength of community. And the power is being given to the people in that community. Yep. And that's the thing, and that's where I think it really deviates from UMC, as in addition to, it's not just music industry specific. Of course, musicians, you are welcome. You are entrepreneurs, and we want to introduce you to that world of entrepreneurship. But it also, it just brings all these folks together. I forgot what I was saying exactly. I went on a tangent. I'm gonna edit.
That happens to me all the time.
Yeah, but let's see. Let's rewind that a little bit. So, shoot, I'm gonna need to edit this. Wow, this never happens.
We were talking about community and
it.
Okay.
And the thing with ECM Collective is that power is given to the community, and the members of that community are going to be helping each other move along toward their goals and stay accountable to their goals. And some members of the community might be further along in their journeys than others, and that's fine, because we're all here to lift each other up, right?
That's right.
And musicians, of course, you're an important part of that, because you're also entrepreneurs, but we're going to introduce you to this entire world of entrepreneurship and give you everything you need to make the connections to build your platform on your terms. That's the exciting part about this. We're not just going to be spewing just the basic industry tropes of, well, you need to do this, this, and this, and you'll succeed. And then you go do it, and you've shelled out thousands of dollars on a coach who told you something you could Google. That's not what we're here to do. And again, here I go on my soapbox again. We are here to build community, to give real-time feedback, to give real-time inspiration to the members of that community. and give them the connections, the opportunities, the resources they need in order to elevate authentically on their terms without having to try to fit into a mold, but in a way that allows them to connect to their audience.
Yep.
You know, and that's the important thing I want to drive home here with ECM Collective. So please check us out. Again, we're running from now till October 2nd, a super early bird special. If you apply to join or are accepted, it's $300 a year for life, for the lifetime of your membership. We also have a monthly early bird special where it'll be $35 a month, you know, if you want to do the monthly thing. But either way, you are given the opportunity right now to get on the ground floor of something that's going to be monumental for next to nothing.
Yeah.
Like, and the value you're going to get out of this, the people you'll be able to connect with through this, like, you're going to be kicking yourself if you don't do it. And I'm not the type of person to make that kind of hard sell, but I'm hard selling right now.
Yeah, you're not big on hyperbole. You're like legit.
Like, you will be kicking yourself if you don't get in on the ground floor of this.
I will second that. I don't know why. I will second that.
There we go. All right. Well, I need to figure out how to edit around my screw up there, but Revel 9's All I Become gonna take us out like it brought us in. Grab some muffins on the way out.